How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another Marvel Snap Zone video. We have the meta tier list for the week for September 4th. I've been gone for the last couple weeks or so. I'm back for this video. I'm actually on vacation coming up at the end of next week, so I believe someone else is going to cover the Conquest tier list for this week. I was sick a couple weeks ago and then got super busy. Anyways, I'm back temporarily, and then I'll be back next week. But the meta this week is pretty interesting. The OTA changes shook up the meta quite a bit. It is about to be the new season, so I would recommend using some of these decks if you're trying to just climb ladder as fast as possible. Obviously, in the next few weeks, as with every new season, things are going to get shaken up with new cards coming out. But as of now, this is where the meta was at the end of the last season. I want to point out for these lists, if you're interested, check out all of the silent performers. I'm not going to go over them here, but they are very good performers. They just don't have a large percentage of games played. But I would highly recommend them, especially with the OTA changes. These decks didn't have a chance to get a lot of games played since then. Things like Evolve Doomwave, Sarah Control, Good Card Stature, and Devil Darkhawk we've all seen before. Iron Patriot we have also seen before. Iron Patriot's actually what I've been playing. I've been playing a version of the deck, and I got an Infinity border with it this last season. But Evolve Doomwave and Iron Patriot are very good, and I expect them to be in the main list coming up next week, or even in the Conquest list coming up. So definitely check those out and check out the full article and Den's breakdown of it. He does a great job. All of these guides are fantastic as well. So as usual, we go through the tier 1 and tier 2 decks for the week. So let's take a look at those. We have the only deck at tier 1 is Shuri Sauron. This is actually the only deck aside from the silent performers that had a 0.4 cube rate and above. So that's why it's here in tier 1 by itself, followed by Infinite She-Hulk that has gone down from tier 1, and then Deadpool Destroy, Hella Tribunal, Move Legion, Negative Surfer, Silver Surfer, and then we have our tier 3 and then some budget stuff underneath that. So no crazy decks entering this tier list, nothing that we haven't seen before, but I want to talk a little bit about each of these decks and maybe how they've changed in the last week. So first up, let's talk about Shuri Sauron. Standard list, nothing has changed here. It's your go-to Shuri list. It's a strong list. I honestly didn't think it would be in tier 1 or at the top of the meta anytime soon, yet here it is. It was one of the few decks that did not get hit by the OTA, so it's just solid. It didn't get changed, didn't get nerfed. I do think the Doomwave deck and the Iron Patriot deck are going to pass this up though, especially the Iron Patriot deck. It just seems too strong, and again, very versatile, and I think overall is just a better deck. This might be more consistent as far as doing what it's trying to do, but the Iron Patriot list just seems like a better deck to me. But outside of that, Shuri. But outside of that, it's a Shuri deck. Again, the only deck with 0.4 cube rate and above outside of the silent performers. So if you haven't tried Shuri, I'm sure you have, try this out. Side note, there is also a Shuri Kitty list if you want to give that a shot. It's pretty fun. It was hit by the OTA with Legion, but it's a pretty solid list as well. It's been getting a little bit of popularity. I've had some fun with it. Definitely give this one a shot. So it's just different than the original Shuri list. So definitely check that out. Next up is the Infinite She-Hulk list. This is the one with Leech without Moon Girl. It was at the top of the meta before the OTA changes. It's still up there after the OTA changes. Again, it's just a solid deck. The main worry for this deck is the rise of Doomwave. I believe the Iron Patriot list on this meta tier list runs Wave as well, and if Wave makes a resurgence on the meta, this deck is going to drop down in win rate, just because Wave trumps all, essentially, so your She-Hulk won't be able to be dropped for cheap, and it kind of ruins your game plan. It's a little weird. This is called the Infinite list because Infinite's not in this one. Legion has been teched in for Infinite. I like running Infinite and Hulk just to give that versatility. Legion's also very good. Obviously, it's the best 5-drop in the game, but I do like the Infinite list better. It's more fun for me. I've been more successful with it. So give this a shot. Throw an Infinite in there. Stick to the theme. It's Infinite She-Hulk. Don't take it out Infinite. Next up, we have Deadpool Destroy, which is actually really surprising that it's doing very well. People have been trying out more Destroy again because of X-23 coming in, but it's surprising this has been doing very well because armor is in most of the top decks. It's in the Infinite She-Hulk. It's in both of the Shuri lists. It's just seen a lot, which it seems to foil some of the plans of Deadpool Destroy. But even with armor around, this deck has a high enough win rate and a high enough cube rate to make the list. But I'm not going to sit on this list too much. It's a Deadpool Destroy list. It's really fun. Get big Deadpools out, get big Nulls out, destroy a bunch of stuff. Apparently, even with armor, it still has a very high win rate. So give this deck a shot too. Next up, Hela Tribunal. I am tired of seeing this deck on the list. I'm just not a fan of it. I understand why it's good. I get why people like it. I'm just not a fan. I'm not a fan of the play style, but here it is. I do think this deck is going to continue to do well, especially if Doom Wave continues its climb and Wave comes back into the meta. This deck really doesn't care about Wave. In fact, sometimes it benefits from like a turn 3 Wave. Move Legion has dropped out of the meta, so Invisible Woman it's a lot more reliable now to keep on board and not get shifted around and not foil your plans. So this deck's just doing pretty solid. It has a very clear path of what it's trying to do, puts big numbers on board, and apparently has been very successful in the last week. But once again, nothing really new here. There's not a lot of like tech card spots in this. It's a pretty set list, and it's stuck around in tier 2, so give it a shot. Speaking of Move Legion, here we go. This is kind of your standard Move Legion list, but it got hit a little bit with Captain Marvel getting dropped down to 4 power, and then with Doctor Doom coming up to 5 power. It doesn't work out very well for this deck. So this is the lowest this deck has been since it came around. I believe it started in tier 1 and it just sat there. But it has dropped. It's not as good as it was before, but it still is a solid deck. It just took some hits with Captain Marvel and Legion both getting nerfed. But once again, as with most end of seasons, not much has changed. By the end of the season, all of the all of the cards that come out for that month that are supposed to work together, like the move cards for the month or destroy cards for the month, have mostly come out. So not a lot of shifting in the meta happens. The OTA changes did change a bunch, but as far as like the deck lists themselves don't change a whole lot. So once again, Move Legion. If you haven't played it, come out from under your rock and give it a shot. Next up is Negative Surfer. This is one of the more fun decks on the list, I think. It is also one of the most frustrating when you don't draw Mr. Negative for multiple games in a row. It's very easy to chuck your phone, but it is a very fun list. The ability to dump a bunch of power on turn 6 is just unbelievably fun. According to Den, when the metagame gets shaken up a bunch, apparently Mr. Negative makes its appearance back on these lists, and this is no exception. Here it is. I will caution you guys again with Doom Wave, if that comes back, if it starts being more successful and more seen, specifically Wave, if that gets thrown into decks, this is going to decline very quickly. It will go down so fast, it's not even funny. This entire game plan gets ruined by that one card. So try it out now, I think, before those sleeper decks come into the meta and take up most of the play percentage. I don't know if I would necessarily climb with this list if you're just trying to hit infinite as fast as possible. I'd probably pick one of the silent performers, or even just something straightforward like the Shuri list or something. But this is pretty fun. I also don't think I would take this into Conquest at all. I don't think I've played any Mr. Negative in Conquest, but for ladder, you'd be okay with it. Next up is Silver Surfer. I've been loving all Silver Surfer lists lately. I've been playing like a Silver Surfer Patriot list. I've played a Silver Surfer list like this. The buff to Forge and the Forge into Brood into Absorbing Man combo is wild. That's 30 power by turn 4, and then you drop Sarah and dump a bunch of cards on turn 6. It's insane. I think this list only gets better. It's important to note that the list that has not been doing very well is the one with Nova and Killmonger, and again, that's because of all the armors that are out in the meta. It's just hard to reliably get Killmonger to either kill your Nova or to kill your opponent's 1-drops. Generally, they're protected with how lists are made up right now. But Silver Surfer is fantastic. There's a lot of different cards you can tech in. You can play things like Maximus in different slots. You can play different 3-drops. You have the flexibility with this deck to make the deck how you want and how you want it to play. The main cards being Forge, Brood, Absorbing Man, Sarah, and Silver Surfer, of course, because it's a Surfer deck. Everything else you kind of play with and figure out what you like. You know, you can swap out the Storm Juggernaut combo for something else. I really do like the Storm Juggernaut stuff, but obviously there's a lot of 3-drops in the game, and a lot of them are going to work just fine. And that's it for the list for the week. I know I went over it very quickly. I know a lot of the coverage was basically like, hey, here's this list, it's back. If you want to play it, play it. I get it. Again, it's the end of the month. Things have been pretty sorted out. The OTA shook it up a little bit in terms of where decks are and a little bit on the list themselves, but for the most part, it's the same stuff. I'm looking forward to this next month. I think Alioth is going to be a headache, but I'm looking forward to this next month. I'm looking forward to how the meta shifts. Again, I won't be here for the Conquest video coming up in a few days. I'll be on vacation. I'll be out in Utah off-roading and stuff. But I will be here starting next week, back to my 2 videos a week for you guys. Hopefully cover the meta, and hopefully when I come back, things are so shaken up that I'm a bit confused. So, as usual, if you love all things Marvel Snap, make sure you like and subscribe, both to me on my channel and Marvel Snap Zone. See you in the next one.